What's going on, everybody? Chris here, Blue Collar Sports. Joining me today is the Lakers radio broadcaster and also the co-host of Mason and Ireland on ESPNLA AM710, John Ireland. John, say hello, man.
Chris, how are you?
I'm good. A little sad, but I guess I'm happy of how things turned out. Everybody knows you have a long history with Kobe Bryant. You've covered him for a very long time, and you know Kobe's on everybody's mind right now in LA. And I think it just would be fitting to see how you enjoyed all the festivities and all the pandemonium that went down on Staples the other night. So if you can just kind of give us your insight on how everything went down, that'd be great.
Well, Chris, the thing that I'm the most happy about for him is that his story has an ending. Because until that happened on Wednesday, the way his career was going to end wasn't very befitting of a guy who had won 5 titles and had arguably become the most popular player in the world at one point. I mean, all those great highs and all those great lows, and you know, it was like watching this really fun roller coaster ride. And then these last 3 years, he gets hurt, the team breaks down, they miss the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. It's very un-Kobe-like. And lo and behold, out of nowhere, comes a 60-point game. And to put that in perspective, Chris, that was the number 1 scoring game of the entire season. No player had a 60-point game in the NBA all year until Kobe did it. He hadn't done it in 7 or 8 years since he broke the scoring record at Madison Square Garden. And so nobody saw it coming. I actually made a joke in the first quarter after he finished with 15 points. I said on the air to Michael, "Hey man, he's on pace to score 60."
Yeah.
And we both laughed. And then he went out and did it. And I've been telling people for a couple of days that had you turned this in as a movie script, they would have kicked it back to you saying, "Come on, man, it's too unrealistic. Let him score 30 points. He's not going to come from 15 down and hit the last shot. Then we're not going to have confetti cannons shooting off and him picking up the microphone, talking to the crowd, dropping the mic and saying, 'Mamba out.'"
Yeah.
But it all happened. All of it happened. And so it gave his career and his story a really good ending, which none of us saw coming.
Yeah, and exactly. It was something that we were all hoping for. And the way the game started, you know, he looked really over anxious. You know, maybe a little nervous. He started off 0 for 5, and then he ended up making his next 5 shots, and you kind of saw him revert back to this old Mamba days when he would just go off and get into the zone, and it was just great. It was great for him to see that, and I was just surprised that his legs were able to carry him. I think he ended up playing, what, if you can correct me, 40 minutes?
He played 42 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
And so, it was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, and so I think I saw a picture from your Twitter of the shot of LA Live right before the game. That was just crazy. I mean, there was thousands and thousands of people there. It seemed like from early on in the day, just so much fan love and support. Were you able to speak? There was a ton of celebrities there. Were you able to speak to any of them?
Well, we had a guy running around basically, you know, asking people if they would come on the broadcast with us. So we started with Arsenio Hall and George Lopez.
There you go.
We had Snoop Dogg, and we had Derek Fisher and Rick Fox, and so, you know, everybody was in a great mood. The difference, Chris, between this game and let's say Game 7, maybe Game 7 against Portland back in 2000 or Game 7 against the Celtics in 2010, is that there was an angst at those games because the fans didn't know whether or not the Lakers were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
We were all kind of sitting on edge, you know, hoping for the best. Nobody cared about the game. It was just a big party or a big celebration for Kobe. And so if you look at it in those terms, it becomes, you know, just a completely different experience. And that picture that you were talking about, I had to go up to a sponsor reception in what they call the City Terrace right before the game, and I walked out there and looked across the street. And I mean, you're talking to a guy who's covered 5 Lakers parades, and I have never seen that plaza that crowded. It was completely packed. I mean, I've just never seen anything like that, especially before a game. But I think it was kind of a convergence of all these events, that the game didn't really matter. Nobody cared if they won or lost. They just wanted to be there for Kobe's last game. And then, after all of that, he delivers, even bigger than any of us thought he could. So that's what made it such a great night.
Yeah, it was definitely somewhat of a fairy tale ending. I guess the fairy tale ending would have been, I guess, the way like Peyton Manning went out. But he did have his Derek Jeter-like moment, the final at-bat at Yankee Stadium, his final game at Staples Center. And they were able to, they both had down years, but they were able to bring this big moment and have these incredible games, have an incredible game to kind of have us remember and send them off by. It was really great. I just wanted to ask you, who was the most surprised, let me rephrase that. Magic Johnson said in the pregame show, or in the pregame ceremony, that Kobe Bryant is the best Laker of all time. Do you agree with that, or do you think he was just kind of in the moment with the rest of the people and just trying to celebrate Kobe?
I think the answer to that question depends on how old you are.
Uh-huh.
For example, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay, so I would put you as someone likely to vote for Kobe.
I would.
As the greatest Laker ever, because think about it, when you were 9, Kobe came on the scene. So Kobe got you through elementary school, middle school, high school, now you're an adult. I mean, he's been kind of the background of your Laker fandom your whole life.
Yeah.
For me, that was Magic. Magic broke onto the scene in my junior year of high school. So he got me through high school, college, all of my early years. So to me, Magic is the greatest Laker, and Kobe's number 2. I'd put Kareem 3. But I'm not going to argue with anybody that thinks Kobe is better, because in your life, Kobe has always been there. You didn't get to see Magic play in his prime, so I don't know if you feel the same way about Magic that I do. But I followed Magic as a fan. I covered Kobe as an announcer. They're 1 and 1A. I mean, I'm not going to yell at anybody that picks either one. I think for the most part, again, the vote would break on age.
Yeah.
Like, I think most younger people under 35, would probably go Kobe. Most people over 35 would probably go Magic. But you wouldn't be married to it. Like you, who is it for you? How would you answer that question?
Well, I mean, for me, it's Kobe Bryant, and it's merely because when I break down just the simplicity of the game, offense versus defense. Maybe offense they were somewhat similar, but when I look at an individual defender, I have to always give the nod to Kobe, because he was the guy that crunch time in the game, he was going to lock up.
I'll give you another talking point for your argument. If you want to argue that it's Kobe, you hit the first one, that he's 12 times all NBA defense. 12 times. And secondly, Magic never had to rebuild the team from scratch. Kobe won 3 titles with Shaq. Then Shaq goes. The team goes 34 and 48. Kobe comes back with Powell and Lamar and those guys and takes them to the finals 3 more times. I mean, that's inherent greatness right there. Magic never had to do that. Magic always had Kareem every time he won a title. Kobe lost his other superstar. Then they changed the roster, built the team around him, and made it to the finals 3 more times. That Magic never did that. And so if you want to argue that it's Kobe, I'm not going to yell at you. I think you could easily make that argument.
Yeah, Kobe definitely had to deal with some instability within the franchise, and it sucked because he dealt with probably the biggest instability during his peak years right after Shaq left. I mean, they gave him virtually nothing, no help. He had Lamar Odom, but that team was just put together with duct tape. So yeah, it was really unfortunate. I wanted to ask you real quick. I don't know if you can touch on this or not, but the other day on Colin Cowherd's show, Jason Whitlock filled in, and he really hammered Kobe, and really placed the blame on Kobe for all the bad things that the Lakers are facing and all the bad things that the Lakers have faced throughout the last 15 years or so. I'm not sure if you heard it or not, but if you did, I mean, where do you think that type of anger comes from, and do you think that that's a fair blame?
No, I did hear it. I know it's a fair blame, and let me preface this by saying I like Jason. I think that he is very smart and very good at providing viewpoints that you may not think of. So, in other words, he's a contrarian. For example, I don't think there will be an NFL team who signs Greg Hardy. Jason thinks the campaign against Greg Hardy is a witch hunt, and that if he ran an NFL team, he would sign Greg Hardy.
Uh-huh.
I don't think an NFL team would. I would not sign Greg Hardy. But if you want to make the argument that Hardy deserves to have an opportunity, that's the type of thing Jason is good at. In this case, he blames everything on Kobe. I would argue that anyone who does that hasn't been paying attention to the arc of Kobe's career.
Exactly.
They don't win any of those first 3 titles without it. Then, as I told you earlier, they come back and rebuild it, and he takes them to the finals 3 more times. All right? He went to 7 NBA finals. The Lakers go to 0 of those finals, not 1 without Kobe. A Laker executive told me once that Kobe, even in the down years, made the Lakers money. In other words, that he was more responsible for them getting that TV contract and for selling tickets and for doing all of that stuff than any player that the Lakers have had in the last 20 years. And so if you look at it through that prism, how can you argue that Kobe Bryant decimated the franchise? He's the reason the franchise got the value. I could, Chris, argue, and if I ever have Jason on, I'll make this point, that without Kobe, the Lakers don't get their Time Warner cable TV contract, and it's the TV contract that sets them apart.
Uh-huh.
The Lakers are set for the next 25 years. For him to argue that Kobe decimated the franchise ignores the fact that he's the reason the franchise is in the black. Did he think that the Lakers would get that TV contract without those 7 trips to the finals? There's no way.
Yeah.
It's a completely blind outlook at what Kobe brought to the Lakers. And having said that, I understand what he's doing. That's Jason's act. He's a contrarian. He likes to tell you something different than everybody else says. But to make a cogent argument that Kobe is the reason that the Lakers are now in a mess is ignoring the fact that he's the reason that they rose to the top in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you 100%. Right here, John, probably my last question for you. Now that Kobe's officially retired, every Laker fan is pretty much a diehard Kobe fan at the same time, and we're all, feeling the blow. We're all hurting from Kobe being, knowing he's not going to be there anymore. We don't have our captain. We don't have, the guy to push us over the tough times and push everybody to be their best. Now we're kind of relying on 3 rookies who look pretty good to kind of carry us through the future. How do you think the Lakers, manage going forward without the presence of someone like Kobe Bryant?
Well, the first thing I would tell you is the Lakers have been through this before. Magic left, Kareem left, Shaq left, now Kobe's leaving. So this is the cycle of sports. Teams have to go through this all the time. Having said that, he's irreplaceable. He's irreplaceable as a draw at the gate. It's amazing, Chris. The Lakers were the #1 road draw in the NBA this year. They brought in more money than the Warriors, who had a historic season.
Yeah.
So that's Kobe's value. The way the Lakers need to rebuild is first they need to get a little lucky. Keep your eye on the date, May 19th. That's the ping pong ball lottery. Now, most fans understand that the Lakers pick is only top 3 protecting. What I don't know, if a lot of fans have figured out, is that just because the Lakers finish with the 2nd worst record in the NBA doesn't necessarily mean they keep their pick. They need the ping pong balls to break correctly.
Mm-hmm.
If they get leapfrogged by 2 teams, they lose the pick. In other words, because they had the 2nd worst record doesn't automatically mean they get the 2nd pick. That's what the ping pong balls are for.
Yeah.
The reality is the Lakers have a 54% chance of keeping their pick. That, if we're talking baseball, and I told you there's a 46% chance this guy deal with that. It's a real possibility. It's basically a coin flip. Let's say it breaks our way, and we get to keep the pick. Then you decide what to do with it. Do you draft a young player, a Ben Simmons or a Brandon Ingram? Do you use that draft pick to maybe get an established player? Are you able to sign a free agent? There's going to be some pretty big names like Kevin Durant and DeMar DeRozan out there. Would you be able to convince one of them to come play with the new number one pick? So there's a whole bunch of boxes that the Lakers need to check, starting with that ping pong ball lottery in the middle of May. That's the next thing you watch. If they keep the pick, then they get on the phone. They start talking to people. Are the rumors true that a guy like Boogie Cousins could move? Is it true that Jimmy Butler is unhappy in Chicago? All these questions are going to get answered. But right now, the Lakers have to worry about one thing, that ping pong ball lottery in the middle of May. If they keep the pick, they have more ammunition at the poker table. If they lose the pick, they got to get more creative. So that's the one to watch.
Yeah, and it's really scary at this point because it almost seems like if the Lakers lose out on that pick, that's a major blow for them to start off the off season. So, we're all
not necessarily. Let me tell you the other scenario. Let's say they lose the pick, all right, and Laker fans will be very devastated, and so they don't have a first round draft. They still have the 32nd pick. Tony Parker was taken 29th. Larry Nance last year was taken 32nd. Manny Ginobili was the 58th pick in the draft. Isaiah Thomas was 60th. You can make an impact player with that pick at 32. What it doesn't do is give them ammunition to make trades. It would mean if they wanted to try and bring in veteran help via trade, they would have to give up one of those young core assets you were talking about, somebody already on the roster.
Yeah.
But also, remember this. They've got over $60 million in cap space. If I told you that they were able to get Kevin Durant and DeMar DeRozan, you'd forget about that lost ping pong ball thing pretty quick, wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Now, I'm not saying they're gonna. Matter of fact, the odds are against you. But that's why I say we got to go in order. You got to check that first box. Did they keep the pick? Okay. Yes, we go one way. No, we go the other way. But there's still plenty of options that Mitch Kupchak can use to rebuild the team next year. I would say this. The roster will look radically different. I think a lot of the players you saw in purple and gold this year will not be there next year, and the team will look different. So if you're a Laker fan, you got to stay tuned. You got to stay focused and see what these guys come up with.
Yeah. All right. And John, last question, real quick. Give me your favorite Kobe Bryant moment.
For me, and I encourage people who are listening to this to go into YouTube, type in Kobe game winner Portland. It was the last game of the 2004 season. Kobe it was at the end of the game, and Portland was beating the Lakers by 3. They threw the ball into Kobe with 1 second left. He threw up a circus three-pointer around Ruben Patterson that went in to tie the game, so we got the game to overtime. Fast forward to overtime. This time the Lakers are down 2, and they have 2 seconds left. And they bring the ball into Kobe, and Theo Ratliff, who's a 7-footer, is running right at him. And Kobe shoots the ball to the moon, a super high-arcing 3. That goes in. They win the game by 1. It was the most incredible end of an overtime and an end of a regular game I've ever seen. And I interviewed him right after that on the court. And he had complete confidence that he could pull it off. But, Chris, go watch those shots. The fact that one of them went in is a miracle.
Yeah.
The fact that 2 of them went in is ridiculous. The chances of him doing this twice in a row, ever, if we gave him 100 shots, I don't think he could ever pull it off. And that was the magic of Kobe.